Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for this episode of the Marketing Guides for Small Business podcast. My name is Ian, and I'm joined here by Ken and Paul, and together we are your marketing guides. Today, we're going to talk about reviews. Reviews are more than just a collection of feedback. They play a crucial role in search engine optimization, and they serve as a powerful form of social proof for your business. But did you know that your online reviews are also telling a story about your business? They provide an overall impression and they reveal how you treat your customers. In this episode, our marketing guides will delve into the fascinating world of reviews, uncovering how they tell a story about your business, the impact they have on potential customers, and most importantly, how you as a business can influence that story. So, whether you're a small business owner or a marketing professional in a business, this episode is a must listen. So, let's jump in and unravel the narrative hidden within your reviews and help you harness their storytelling potential for your business's success. So, Ken, with that long intro that I just did, let's start off with you. How do online reviews contribute to the overall impression prospects have of your business?
Yeah, well, I think, first and foremost, it provides social proof. We live in an age where most people trust online reviews as much or more as they do from recommendations or referrals from friends or family. So, if not as much, they're at least on par with, and in many cases, even they exceed those because there are volumes of reviews typically that people can look at. So that social proof is huge. It gives potential customers insights into the customer experience, which I think is really critical. Let's just use a restaurant as an example because it's an easy one, but it also I want to talk about how you can kind of take it to the next level. So if you're looking at restaurant reviews and people keep commenting over and over again about a particular dish, you know, if you're a restaurant and you didn't really know that people were that excited and enthusiastic about that particular dish, um, then you're going to learn a lot, and maybe it drives other menu items that you want to create in the future. What I think is really cool, and where most businesses, sadly, almost every business misses this opportunity, is I'm a big fan of text marketing, especially for like restaurants or brick and mortar businesses. If you know you've got that feature item, that hook that drives people in, man, what better way than to use text marketing to remind people, oh yeah, by the way, remember this thing? Remember this menu item that you love so much? Guess what? You can come in and get it today. You don't even have to offer a discount. You just want to remind people. You can offer a discount if you want. But anyway, I'm kidding a little bit off subject here, but that's kind of getting into the story opportunity that I think way too many businesses are missing with the power of reviews. It gives people the opportunity to learn from that feedback. Like I said, in this case, the restaurant could take it, use it for other marketing channels, use it to dictate maybe new products that they want to put on menus, things like that. It's so important for building and preserving and protecting your online reputation, and it comes down to trust and confidence. I mean, you want people to walk in expecting a great experience. Otherwise they may not walk in at all, or they may not pick up the phone and call you to come and repair a broken sewer line or something like that. They're going to look for a business that has the feedback that the community has provided. And so, yeah, they're just absolutely critical.
Yeah, yeah. One thing that comes to mind when I think of a story, right? It's got a beginning, a middle, and an end, right? And this story is never the end never comes until the business closes down or whatever, right?
Right.
So it's a storyline and there's a plot. And what I find interesting too, and maybe you're like this when you're researching businesses you want to purchase from or products you want to buy. I, as a consumer, I think we get more and more savvy the longer we're in this game, right? Because if you think about it, it's a learned behavior of how we use reviews as businesses, but as consumers, we're getting more savvy in how we use them as well. And one of the things, maybe you do this as well, is okay, so I'm going traveling and I want to check out restaurants or a hotel, or I'm going to hire a service. And I see that their overall rating is a 4.8 out of 5. That's great. That's a good aggregate rating. It's okay that there's some negative reviews. And of course,
Right.
uh, in my process, and maybe you do the same, is I then filter them by date. So I filter the newest at the top because I want to see, are they still maintaining a high level of quality, or is there a trend? Because I think we've all seen this where, especially with resorts or hotels, they may have a really high level of quality for a while, and then maybe they go through some changes of management, they get bought out, whatever, and it starts to crash. And the only way as a consumer you can really know that ahead of time is by chronologically looking, just skimming through the reviews and going, oh wow, there's a pattern
Yeah.
of negativity, or there's a pattern. It works conversely in that maybe there were issues, but they've obviously resolved those because you can see that by that pattern. And then the other side of it too is you can filter those or sort them by negativity or positivity, right? So there's a lot, I think, as consumers we do in order to understand the quality of a business and the plot, the storyline, in order to understand, should I hire them, should I go there today,
Yeah.
based on what's happening with the business.
Yeah.
Do you
Yeah.
guys do that, or is that just an Ian thing?
I actually don't. I do
Okay.
typically scroll through several reviews. I do look at the dates, but I rarely filter them. Just me
Yeah.
personally. Um, you know, the composite rating. I mean, if you're below a 4.2, you need to work on it.
Yeah.
Period. But psychologically, that seems to be the magic number. If you're below a 4, absolutely no brainer, no doubt, you need to be working on getting and improving your overall review composite rating. I think 4.2 is the minimum safe number that I would recommend for businesses, because then you definitely can start to see a drop off after that.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a story I recently came across on Facebook, and in the town I live in, there's obviously there's fence builders and deck builders and that kind of stuff. And so there was a comment on Facebook to the community group that I'm in. Hey, here's a very negative experience I had with a local fencing company, not fencing company, deck building company. And they included photos of what went wrong. And they said the reason I chose this company was due to their good Google reviews, because they were all very positive. And to me, like, maybe they didn't go through this little, I don't see it as a very rigorous process. It's very natural, and because I like patterns, I'm looking for them. But I just think, wow, like, whatever experience they have had, the business didn't resolve the issue, so it's still a negative experience, and they're at least thoughtfully spreading bad news about the company, because they're like, if you want to know who the company is, DM me, right? So so
Right.
at least
Yeah.
they're not broadcasting it.
Yeah.
But my thought is they better leave a Google review of their true experience, because that will help protect people from a bad business. Like, obviously the business was doing a great job, something happened, maybe their personnel changed, and boom, they need to solve their internal problems so that they don't create more negative experiences.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. Yeah. And I mean, in defense of the business may not know. I mean, I think of an example where we had somebody come out and do, I think it was gutter cleaning or something like that. There's an app that the company uses that track the amount of time that people spend on a project. This person
Yeah.
was here less than 5 minutes.
Wow.
We knew it because we saw their truck pull in and leave, and we got charged, and so we turned it into the company. They were horrified. And so
Yeah.
they went and they validated, and it's like, yeah, you're right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I think most businesses want to try to improve and they want to fix issues. And I think, I think it's, you know, so yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Paul, what are some common elements of a story that online reviews can convey about a business?
Obviously customer satisfaction or dissatisfaction, which we just talked about. A lot of businesses are worried about getting bad reviews, but it's not necessarily a bad thing because it helps you realize what issues you may have, and it's really more about how you deal with that bad review than the
Mm.
bad review itself. Because we talked about this. I think it was last week that if some business has 800 5-star reviews, I see that as suspicious because no one is perfect.
Yeah.
Everyone's gonna have a bad day, so to speak. It happens.
It's hard to hear that, Paul, when you work, with Ken and I on this podcast. Like, I thought you would have recognized the perfection there in us. So
Well,
no comment, eh? Okay.
No comment.
but product quality. When you buy some, I don't buy anything because I'm cheap. But no, when I buy something, I don't leave a review like the first time I use it because I want to know if it's like durability. I'm going to wait a few months, and I say that in my review that okay, I've had this product for 6 months and it's still doing what it's supposed to do. I don't leave a review right away because you don't know in 2 days how durable that product is. And responsive first, if you're a business and you're not responding to reviews, you need to fix that. And you see that a lot. And so, but also it's responsiveness to any concerns a customer has, because even if there's an issue like with the you're talking about the decking company or the or the gutter cleaning company, if someone were to leave a bad review or if they leave a review, if the company is aware that these things are happening and they respond to it and try to fix it, a lot of times people will leave it. They may mention that in the review, but they'll leave a good review because the company they made an effort to fix the issue, so, and, and that just goes into professionalism and overall customer experience. And it's reviews they don't just help consumers, they help businesses too. And I think a lot of businesses overlook that aspect of it.
Yeah, absolutely. The one thing I think is worth mentioning is that when we're auditing clients on total online presence, right? That's one of the things we do. I think you guys do that as well. But when we're monitoring that and auditing it and trying to determine, hey, what makes this company unique from its competitors, its nearest competitors? We do client interviews and that kind of stuff, but we also go through their reviews and we look for common positives and common negatives and things where people call out unique aspects about the business, right? Because when we as consumers, we're working with a trade, and they do some pretty unique things. But one of the consistent feedback we heard, and it shows up in the reviews as well as in the interviews, is just how they listen, right? During the quoting process, they were not pushy. They listened. They offered a solution that was different from the other competitors, and they weren't pressuring them to buy something they didn't want. And stuff like that is really powerful as a business because, as a business owner, you have an idea of how you want to deliver your service, how you want to sell it to people, how you want to provide customer service. But in some way, that's all theory. You have a philosophy, you have a theory, you want to and put it into place. But how do you measure that, right? And so the only way is to really ask customers through surveys or monitor reviews. And so, yeah, it's such a powerful tool that, I think just as you've said, I think businesses underutilize it and don't always realize the power that it has. Ken, how can positive reviews influence prospects' perception of your business?
Yeah. So, I mean, we've already talked about several of them, in terms of social proof and things like that. And the way I like to think about social proof is, again, I put myself through college working at restaurants. So I kind of have a soft spot, for restaurants. And I think back, the place that I was really excited about when I was in college was this place where people would stand in line for hours
Hmm.
to get a pizza. And
Must have been
so
great pizza, though.
it
Yeah.
absolutely was. I wish I had one right now. Um, and that, to me, that's social proof. You drive past that block, you see people standing in line waiting. Okay, well, if you look at an online, a Google profile or Yelp profile or whatever, and you see a bunch of reviews, that kind of is the equivalent of people standing outside waiting in line in front of a restaurant. I mean, there's no time consideration there in that case. But from a time consideration, think about this. If you're a home remodeling contractor and you're booked out several months, but you have a lot of great stellar reviews, people may give you the benefit of the doubt and wait in line to work with you because of those reviews, as opposed to somebody else because you have them, because they're like, okay, this is a great company. Everything that these people are saying, yeah, that's what I want. Okay, I can wait a couple of months for my project to get done. So it could buy you time. And in this day and this market where, home remodeling contractors or home contractors of any type, really, except for emergency services, which have a critical, urgency need and time frame to them, buying time to get people to wait in line is massive. So I think that's critical. Why? It gives people reassurance. They get a feel for what their experience is going to be like without them actually experiencing it. So it's foreshadowing, which is a real key part of storytelling, is people are projecting themselves into that situation. They want to see what it's going to be like. And, so it's just really, really important. I think, I think those are the biggest elements that come to my mind. It all comes down to confidence and trust and putting yourself into a story, by experiencing what other people are saying about a business.
Yeah. Great points, Ken. One of the things I'm reminded of too is just, business owners I bump into at networking events or something. And, we might somehow the topic might come up about reviews. And some people are very jaded against them. And some people will also say, well, my business is based on word of mouth or referrals. So I don't really need reviews. And that's
What do they
actually
think reviews are?
exactly. But what they're saying is I don't need online reviews. And so I think, I'm curious about your opinion on that.
Oh, I think every business needs online reviews. We live in a world where, if I get a referral from a friend or a family member or a business colleague, I'm still going to go look online. I mean, trust but verify is kind of the approach that I take. So, that's why every business needs to have some aspect of a digital presence. They need to have a professional website. They probably ought to have a Google business profile if they're a local business, and because, people, most people, especially if the more complex the sale is or the purchase is, people are going to do a little bit more research around that. So yeah, absolutely. You've got to have them. And if you don't, 0 reviews speaks volume about your business.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I'm a big believer. You don't want to leave any communication gap without thinking about it. You may do it by design. Okay, great. You're doing it by design. There's intentionality there. But if you don't have any online reviews, you're leaving people to rush to their own assumptions that nobody cares enough to write a review about your business, or even worse, yeah, this business isn't great, but I don't want to trash them online, so I'm just not going to write a review. that's not good.
Or they're too scared to ask for reviews, right? Like,
Yeah, yeah,
and you
yeah.
wonder, why are they scared to ask
Right,
for?
exactly. So
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's so interesting. The thing I find too is that, we've talked many times on our podcast about the buyer's journey, and that people need to know you, to like you, to trust you, to try you, to buy from you in order to repeat and refer to you, right? And just that buyer's journey that they go through, reviews are a really key part, regardless of where they come in and how they come in, whether it's a referral, an ad, SEO, whatever it is, email marketing, social media, right? They
yeah,
are, if they're really serious about buying from you, the chances are good that somewhere in their journey, and usually near the beginning, they will do some research on you to understand, are you a good choice for them? Because the beauty of platforms like Google, I mean, there's lots of other platforms you could use, like Yelp and Angie and, House, and all of these other, industry specific platforms. But the beauty is, it's so easy as a consumer to research now,
yeah,
right? And so it's almost like, you all you need is one bad experience, at a restaurant or going to a hotel or whatever, where you're like, man, next time I'm going to be sure I spend 5 minutes and research this business a little bit more.
yeah, yeah.
I think I accidentally put Ken down in my list of questions for two in a row, so I don't know who's prepared for this question. Is it you, Ken, or is it you, Paul?
I'm cool with it.
Okay, sorry about that. It's a pretty simple process.
Well, it's the other side of the coin, right?
So this one, that's true. This question is for Ken. What are some negative impacts of negative reviews in that business's story?
Yeah, well, it leaves the potential for doubt, and you're losing control of your message. So when people start to read negative reviews, they're either they're going to be making assumptions, and so you've got, this is absolutely critical. Although you should respond to every review, and there's a good reason why, because Google pays attention to that.
Yeah.
But if you get a negative review and you don't respond, then people think you either don't care, um, you're not paying attention, or something really bad happened that you just don't even want to address. And at least taking ownership of it and saying, we're sorry you weren't satisfied, taking the rest of the conversation offline, it shows people that you're paying attention, you care, and you're reaching out to try to help make things right. So it can also help you reverse a negative review. I mean, if you satisfactorily address the issue. A good example of that is, if you've ever bought anything on Amazon, you read the reviews, you're going to find people bought something, it was broken when they got it, they returned it. They tell all this narrative in the reviews. They talk about how great the return experience was, and they give them a high quality review, but there's negative content in that write up. But again, they're taking control of the narrative, and they're owning the story, and they're making it a good outcome, because of the way the business handled that situation. The author of that review, decided to tell that story. So they're very, very powerful. I don't think, we live in a hyper competitive age, and there's more choice and more availability than ever before. I don't think you want to leave any doubt or any question out there. That's going to slow down decision-making process. It's going to lengthen the sales cycle. It may devalue the price that you can get for your product or service. There's so many negatives, and they all come into play. So negative reviews, like Paul said, isn't the end of the world. As a matter of fact, it brings a lot of realism, to what's going on, but only if you own it, manage it, control it, and take ownership of it.
Yeah. Yeah. I've had the experience when I've been looking at businesses I want to visit, like restaurants or hotels or services I want to buy, where they have some negative reviews. As I said, I sort it so I can look at some of those negative reviews. Yeah. And the things I'm looking for are first of all, was the person being reasonable? Because I've certainly come across a lot of negative reviews where the person's just unreasonable. So I'm using my own filter of how I view the world and saying, you know what, that person's like crazy. Like, to have those expectations on a business, whatever it is, like, especially through, I used to see a lot of these right around COVID and post COVID, where especially restaurants, right? They were scrambling to get open again. They were scrambling to get enough staff. And some of the negative reviews were so unreasonable of the state of being that the world was in at the time, where you're like, man, cut in your head, you're just saying, cut these guys some slack. They're just trying to rebound. And then the other thing, so I look for reasonableness in the consumer that's leaving the review, or the business that's leaving the review. And then I look for, is the response professional, and what is the response of the business? And that's why those responses are so powerful, because if it's an unreasonable customer and the business then explains, well, we were understaffed, blah, 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 right? Whatever it is. And it's, again, the response is professional and it's reasonable. They're not trying to not take responsibility for the issue, and they're trying to make it right with the consumer. Then I'm like, man, these guys are professional. They may have hit a little blip, but I am happy to give them my business, right?
Yeah,
so,
yep.
Again, it's interesting that this podcast is about the story of reviews, because I think as we go through reviews of a business as a consumer looking at them, we essentially are creating a story in our mind, just what you talked about, Ken, about foreshadowing my experience with that business, where you're like, it's not to the same level, but professional athletes always visualize success, right?
Yeah.
And it's almost like that when we have an idea of what a successful, wonderful experience is going to look like, whether we're buying a product, a service, going out, and I think that's where we have it in our mind of what we want. And these reviews help us substantiate that decision in our own mind, especially if other people's experiences are on the line. Like if you're taking a group out, or you're taking your spouse out, or whatever it is, right? Yeah. It gives you a little bit more confidence that you're making a good decision.
Well, some of those negative reviews are left by stupid people too. I mean, I was doing some research a while back on a product, and there was some bad reviews. So I went and looked at them, and like 2 of the 1-star reviews, they did something you're absolutely not supposed to do with this product. And so they went and left a negative review.
So, do not put your hairdryer in the sink full of water.
Right.
I don't know. It didn't. My power went out. I don't know what happened.
I plugged it in and the power went out.
That's right. Don't do that, people.
Right.
But it's true. There is a continuum of, whatever capabilities of people to
See, you're so much more polite than me.
Because he's Canadian.
So, Paul, how can businesses proactively shape the narrative that their reviews are telling? I think we've covered this to some degree, but maybe you can dig a little bit more into that and give some advice to business owners on this.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think we have. I think the whole podcast we've kind of talked about this, but going back to something you said about business saying, well, my business from referrals, I don't need online reviews. Well, yes, you do. Ken talked about that a little bit, but if you've been in business for any length of time, the world has changed. And if you plan on being in business and acquiring new customers, those new customers are probably going to be younger, and they interact differently with businesses than a lot of older people. And they're going to start online, and they're probably going to start by looking at reviews. And if you don't have reviews, like Ken said, that can say as much as anything. No reviews can be a bad thing. But we've talked about engaging with customers and responding to reviews, addressing bad reviews. If you get a bad review, and this actually did happen, it can point out internal problems that you need to deal with. And put a review stream on your website. Showcase the testimonials and reviews. And like we said, implement, you can automate the process of asking for reviews. By the way, we've talked about in the past, we haven't mentioned that here. And like I said, responding to reviews is important, and responding to bad reviews is probably more important. I'm not saying you shouldn't respond to good reviews, you should, but dealing with bad reviews is in some ways more important than responding to good reviews, because it shows customers that are potential customers that you care, and if there's an issue, you're willing to deal with it. And I think we've pretty much covered it.
Yeah, I want to jump in. I think way too many businesses miss the opportunity to market their reviews. So the reviews live on one specific website. If somebody doesn't use that particular website, if they don't use Yelp, they're never going to see them. If they don't use Zillow or Realtor.com or whatever, they're not going to see them. So it's on you to market those reviews and be proactive about it and be proud about it. Create video content, do snippets from quotes from customers for social media. You can create highlight reels from videos. I mean, there are so many different things. Most businesses just completely fail to market their reviews. They may be working really hard to get those reviews. The other thing is, you need to think about where your ideal customer is spending time online and what sources are they trusting. If you're in a urban area, especially East and West Coast, and it's, and it's not just for restaurants. I mean, Yelp is a strong player for reviews. If it's important for you to be known, and obviously Yelp doesn't want you to solicit for reviews. They want reviews to happen naturally and organically. So you can drive people to your Yelp page, but they don't want you to ask for reviews. I respect that. That's cool because, they want it to be natural process. But, if your ideal customer, if you're an attorney and that a lot of your customers trust a site like Avvo, then make sure you're getting reviews on Avvo as well. The other thing is, there's this concept that we talk about, and this is from Google, called review velocity. And that is are you getting a constant, steady stream of reviews? And Ian, you talked about how you do your sort, and things like that in your research.
Mm-hmm.
If Google starts to devalue the importance of reviews from an online ranking perspective, after several months, 6 months, you probably start to see a pretty large deterioration, in certain businesses, especially ones that have natural high volume, types of purchases. So you want to pay attention to that. It's just critically important.
Yeah. Yeah. And just to reiterate that point, like I don't like the philosophy of Yelp suggesting that you shouldn't ask for reviews, because all the statistics show.
I agree. I know what you're going to say. I absolutely agree.
Yeah. And this is for our listeners, because I know what what I'm going to say, but like the statistics, I believe the last time I looked is that 97% of consumers use reviews. 6% will leave a review if unsolicited or unasked or unprompted. 6%. Like
Right.
There's so much and it's not because they haven't had a good experience. It's because they just forget, right? I always use kind of the analogy of I've moved on to a new room, right? In my life, like I ate a great dinner. Now I'm thinking about the grass I need to cut or the activities I need to do. But if the restaurant were to prompt me and say, "Hey, how was your meal?" I would be like, "It was outstanding. Like we had a great experience and I want to share it with the world." But, if they didn't ask, I would probably forget. I think
people are busy,
Yeah.
And something we didn't mention and probably should mention is that having a bad experience and being peeved is a more powerful motivator than being satisfied. And if you don't proactively ask for reviews, you can wind up with more bad reviews than good reviews. and it may not really be true of your business. It may not truly reflect your business, because if people are mad, they're more likely to go leave a review, and it's not going to be a good one. So that's another reason it's important to ask for reviews.
Yeah. I will say, you have to put it, I mean, these statistics are general. You have to think about the culture of the people who are using these different kinds of services. Yelpers, they're much more inclined to write reviews because that's what built and drove the app in the first place. Angie is another one. That was where people could go out and check and vet home services contractors in advance. And it was built on the culture of people writing reviews. So, not every review site is like that. Absolutely. I mean, Google Business Profile is not that way. I mean, if you just let Google reviews happen, as Paul said, they're going to skew to the negative because we remember the negative more deeply, and we want to try to protect people from a bad experience. So you got to think about it in context, and you got to understand kind of the culture of the review app and the nature of your clientele. I mean, again, if you don't understand your ideal client, that's going to be problematic, and it makes it really hard to tell the story you want to tell.
Yeah. People don't like being dissed. They'll leave a bad review.
That's right. One of the other things we haven't even talked about, because we're talking more or less about the story your reviews tell, but I think this does tell part of the story, is that if you don't have reviews and your competitors do, you might not even be in the story. So right. I think it's really important from a visibility standpoint. Reviews play a big part of how you show up in local rankings for businesses. Yeah. So, you need to be, you talked about review velocity, Ken. We've talked about ranking, like overall ranking. They show up in Google results. They show up in some ads. Like you really need to think through that. And if you're avoiding reviews, you need to rethink that policy, because probably it's holding your business back and you're leaving money on the table and opportunities on the table.
Yeah. I think it's also important to realize, I mean, look, Google gets 90 some odd % of search traffic. Yeah. But if people are doing searches from an Apple device, if they're doing voice searches on Amazon, if they're using Bing or Yahoo, local search results and therefore local ratings are delivered by Yelp, not by Google. So if you're looking at, I mean, you can't just look at this stuff in a vacuum. You need to think about it. Whether you like Yelp or not, that's the reality.
But that's not the reality in places where Yelp doesn't have saturation, right? Like there's lots of states where Yelp is not strong, and same with provinces, right? Sure, so you need to, It might explain some of my Alexa responses, actually.
Yeah. No, exactly. I mean, again, these are all, they're all bounded. They're based on, the type of user, your ideal customers, what devices they're using, all of that kind of stuff for sure.
Sure. Yeah. Paul, any parting thoughts?
Sometimes reviews can be the tipping point for you, because because I've done this, I'm sure other people have done it. You're looking at a few different businesses for something that you need, service area business, for instance, something you need done, and all things seem to be equal, but one of them has like 75 4.8 star reviews and the others have like 3. Mm-hmm. Which one do you think I'm going to go with?
Yeah.
For you?
100%.
Probably the one with 3.
He likes the underdog.
Well, if they give me a really good price, I might.
Well, that's a great point. If that's the reality, where you're so dwarfed by your competitors and the volume of the reviews that they have versus what you have, you may only be able to win that business based on price. And that's not a position of strength.
Yeah, that's not a good model.
Yeah. It's almost the equivalent of, some businesses have based their entire marketing model on paid advertising, right? And that's sustainable to a degree, as long as you have some control over the auction price of the ads and everything like that. But as we've seen in the last year, right, without the organic side, your prices are going to rise.
Right.
That word doesn't want to work for me today.
Cost per clicks are not going to go down.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, they've been steadily going up, and they're not going to go down.
Thank you, Paul. You can finish my comment for me.
Well, the other thing we need to talk about is you ultimately don't own this story, because the story can be yanked out from underneath you at any point in time, because these review sites, you're renting them. You don't own them. While you've got them, while they're working for you, they're critical, no doubt. But at the end of the day, you don't own them. And I mean, we all know of instances on numerous platforms where reviews disappear, they don't show up. You've got to know about that. So while it's a critical component,
it shuts down your account for no reason.
It can't be the only leg. It can't be the only leg on your stool.
Yeah. All right. Any other thoughts, guys?
I don't think so.
This has been great. I've appreciated both of your insights in this, and I think it's been really valuable for our listeners, guys. And I think this is a good place to wrap up. So thank you, Ken and Paul, for sharing your thoughts on this topic. And thank you to our listeners, our audience, for joining us today. I hope you found this topic valuable. Again, we say this every week, but if you have a topic that is a burning topic in your mind and you want us to, as your marketing guides, to bring some color to it and talk about it, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. We would love to potentially include that in our topics. And please share this. If you find this podcast valuable, please share it with other business owners, because I think there's a lot of valuable content here that can help people both leverage marketing strategies and tactics to greater benefit for their business, but also to avoid mistakes and potential pitfalls to their business. So thanks for joining us. And until next week, keep calm and market on.